continues on thousands of people who gather peacefully to demand democracy. The country's security forces are going house to house to make arrests, targeting those who organize or support the protests. Our Kim Hyo-san reports.
Amid the continued violent crackdown on anti-coup protesters in Myanmar, the country's military has been carrying out overnight raids, arresting people and even torturing them. Security forces have reportedly arrested at least 3 people on charges of organizing and supporting the protest movement in Myanmar's largest city, Yangon. According to local media, a ward chairman from Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy party was also found dead in a military hospital on Sunday after being arrested in the overnight raid. The Assistance Association for Political Prisoners Advocacy Group says more than 1,700 people had been detained as of Saturday. As people continue to take to the streets regardless, the military has also started using grenades and tear gas to disperse them. As thousands of people gathered to peacefully demand the resignation of the military government and a return to democracy in the country's second biggest city of Mandalay on Sunday, the riot police dispersed the crowds by peppering them with tear gas. The protesters, which include teachers and university students, fled immediately, with many hiding in nearby buildings. The U.S. said late last week that security forces in Myanmar have killed more than 50 people, but noted the exact death toll could even be higher. Kim Hyo-san, Arirang News.
That's sad. I mean, in all honesty, Myanmar actually is still a developing country. It just embraced maybe about 10 years ago when they started into a democratic rule. I mean, in the span of 10 years, I think what I gathered is that this military organization that's actually constitute about 25% of the of what constitutes the Congress, if you would call that, or the seat in government. They were saying that nothing has happened in Myanmar for the last 10 years, but come to think of it, it is far better, I guess, in terms of flourishing economy. It has starting up, like, at least it has opened opportunities for foreign investments, as opposed to maybe about 50 years of military rule, and nothing changed after that, or there is never anything that even happened to the country for the 50 years of military rule. So what they're saying is it's very unfounded to me, because it's very unfounded in the sense that I think it's too early to judge if how democracy has actually propelled the development of this country. Well, I think, in my opinion, well, probably doesn't even matter, because it's just like my opinion anyway. And I think the military junta, after this coup d'etat, they would realize that still the power actually to govern is not about the organization that's handling the citizenry, but it's actually the citizenry or the public has the power over the government. As you've noticed for now, I mean, it never gets better when the citizen or the people of Myanmar is into strike and protest. So I think they should bring back it's Aung San Suu Kyi, I think that's their prime minister and the leader of the NLD, and let her govern, and she was duly elected in the election from last year, November. So, just my personal opinion. Well, going back into the United Nations, a lot of countries, including Canada, actually put some economic sanctions, and even other Asian countries, the likes of Singapore and Australia, already had some economic embargo and stuff like that. But I think United Nations failed terribly in this case for fear, because there's China and Russia that has a veto power in terms of that what needs to be done in Myanmar. But if there's one organization actually that I am actually is hoping that they would find a resolution to this, is the ASEAN, that is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. They're kind of more very aggressive. Indonesia and I think notably Indonesia and Thailand and Indonesia, Thailand, what else? I think and Malaysia are actually now pushing for the return of and the release of Aung San Suu Kyi. So something like to that effect. So, well, hopefully it can be resolved. One more thing though. As of today, there's like about over 60 deaths already. So this coup d'etat started sometime in February, the 1st of February, and it seems to me that there's about like 2 deaths per day. Currently, there's about 64 deaths already, so it's kind of scary to think that, I mean, this brutality has actually brought forth by the military people, beating up. It seems like there's nothing that's been done to that effect yet. Well, I also wanted you to hear this. I don't know if I can share this with you, but this has been about 2 hours ago.
An official from the party of deposed Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi died sometime overnight, Saturday to Sunday, in police custody, according to his associates. The cause of King Manglat's death was not known, but Reuters saw a photograph of his body with a blood-stained cloth around the head. Police in the region declined to comment. It comes as security forces crack down on demonstrators, staging further widespread protests against last month's coup. Local media and video posted to Facebook said police fired stun grenades and tear gas to break up protesters in Yangon, and a sit-in protest by tens of thousands of people in Mandalay, where at least 70 people were arrested. Footage filmed by the Mayakina News Journal on February 28th showed a nun, which local media identified as Sister Anne Rosa, begging police not to fire. She was later photographed on her knees, stopping the police from advancing. The United Nations says security forces have killed more than 50 people in trying to stamp out daily demonstrations and strikes in the Southeast Asian nation since the military overthrew and detained Suu Kyi at the beginning of February. Figures from the Assistance Association for Political Prisoner Advocacy Group say well over 1,700 people have been detained under the military junta. An alliance of influential workers' unions in Myanmar has now called for an extended nationwide strike starting Monday, with the intention of causing the, quote, full extended shutdown of the country's economy in an attempt to end the military coup.
Yeah, so something like that. I mean, I just don't know how and to what extent the United Nations can actually do for a country that's undergoing, let's say, a military rule, which is the coup d'etat, which is not very acceptable for governance. But it seems to me that they have actually has not acted as much as the ASEAN counterpart. I don't know what to say, but for this chaos, and as I was saying, Myanmar is still still like a baby in terms of how the economy is flourishing. And with all these things going on, I think it doesn't actually help transitioning it from like the from like a democratic to like back to military rule, and that has been proven already from the last 50 years that it never even had so much development. But in a span of 10 years, when the Aung San Suu Kyi started to like open the country for foreign investors, and slowly it actually had all these developments. So it's quite a pity for this government now that, I mean, for the country to undergo those dark years, those 50 years back again onto their feet. And that's exactly why these people, they are also very relentless in terms of protest, as I can see in the news. And it seems to me that there's no stopping for these people. They, regardless, people are now, you know, in exchange for like their lives even, they would fight up to their death just to bring back the democratic rule of Myanmar. Yeah, it's a sad truth, but there's nothing wrong. I mean, it's just like my opinion on that. But anyway, I'm just gonna go back. There's one more news. This is exactly what happens with the Australia government. I couldn't find it anyway. But as I was saying, Australia has a very stern warning for Myanmar, especially from the military. So we'll see how that one goes. In the meantime, yeah, I'm just posting this. It's just nothing but just random thoughts here and there. Anyway, have a good night, guys. Love you.